There we go.
All right, here
Well,
we
Bob,
are.
here we are.
Beautiful out here on the West Coast, sunny day, cold, but sunny, no snow yet. And to a really annoying most of the people in North America, I think we're out doing crocus counts today.
Get out. You're just saying that because we got a foot of snow.
We'll rue to regret that. Like everything else, we'll probably get a dump of course, out here in the West Coast, when we get 2 flakes of snow, it causes a panic. So,
well, we here in Blue Water country, we're just to the north of this enormous historic storm that's passing through the central U.S. and now on its way to the eastern seaboard. But I know that my daughter down in Oakville, they're just getting blasted with snow. Yes, all the way up to Ottawa, Boston, that area. They're going to get hammered. Even down to Washington, they're talking about a foot of snow. So we're missing most of that.
I saw little clips of snow in Tampa Bay or St. Petersburg, one or the other. I mean, in Florida, they were getting snow. You know, that's not uncommon, not unheard of. Well, it is uncommon. Unheard of? No.
No, I mean, if you want to have a holiday in the wintertime with no snow, you don't go to Florida, and unless you're in Miami. Okay, I don't think it's ever. Maybe it snowed in Miami historically once upon a time, but it's. I've been to Florida over the years, especially in January, February, where we'd look out the window and snow flares. I remember going to Disney World one year, and it was snowing to beat the band. And we got on every ride with the kids
very quickly.
Over and over. There was nobody there. We were the only fools who showed up to Disney World. And we were freezing our tushies off. But
you had fun. Anyway, and you had a smile on your face.
We did, because, like I said, we did the same rides over and over again and never had a lineup. But anyway, that's.
Yeah. That brings back, and I probably said it on some of our broadcasts, that when we went to Disney World eons ago, and this
did you go to Disney World or Disneyland?
Disney World down in Florida.
Oh, okay.
And it was just an amazing experience. We didn't have kids with us at that time because they had gone off to do what all kids eventually do. They grow up and start their own families. But I remember walking through the complexes, of which there are a great many, and it really didn't seem to have a homogeneous nature. There were people from Africa, there were people from Europe, there were people from Mexico. People who wore different clothing than we did. But the whole thing really boiled down to the fact that it was a bunch of parents with their kids. And the parents had the biggest smile on their faces because their kids had the biggest smile on their faces.
Yeah.
And I think somewhere we in our troubled world that's teetering on the brink, if you believe the pundits in the newspapers, that we're on the brink of World War III, or we might already be in World War III, we just don't know it. We have to get down to this basic premise that we're just all people. And, you know, we have some basic things in life that we want. One, although you wouldn't know it here in Canada, is we want the best for our kids and our grandkids so that they can do better. People who are in different parts of the world who want to come here because this is like in the Wizard of Oz. We're looking for the streets that are paved with gold and milk and honey. You're not going to find it, but you know, I guess that is what everybody wants, and they all have different levels of what that means. You know, we visited a country that some of our neighbors to the south couldn't go to, and we found doctors and lawyers that were working in the tourist industry because it gave them more money than what they were making as doctors and lawyers. The people that want their designer t-shirts for $5, but demand that the person that's making them in Vietnam get $5 an hour wages. You have to take into account that person that's making only $5 a day in Vietnam. That's like having a six-figure salary here in North America. We have to get over this concept that our way is right, and everybody has to conform to our ways, because that's just not the way it is. We have to get down to the basis of we're all people, and to quote Carl Sagan, we're just a pale blue dot in the infinite wisdoms of space. We are insignificant. So we should all try and get along. Let's not fight anymore.
Yeah, I agree. But there are people who have skin in the game that don't see it our way, because they lust for money and they lust for power. And that's the root of the evil that brings us to some of the problems that we face today. There's in law enforcement, as you know, is always a thing, follow the money, and then but
that's very true. Yeah.
And I think that's got a lot to do with the mess that we're in today, particularly in North America, because as you say, we decided some time ago that some guy making T-shirts for peanuts is okay, because we don't want to make T-shirts and actually have to get our hands dirty, and maybe that T-shirt isn't going to sell for $5, it'll sell for $20, because that's what it costs to employ people,
ship it. Yeah
exactly. But it is what it is. We deindustrialized the continent for literally 3 decades. Turned China from an agro socialist pitiful state into the second largest economy in the world, and it's the manufacturing hub of the world, because the people in Europe and North America got lazy and decided that those people there can work for cheap, except they don't work for cheap anymore. They're not stupid either.
Yeah.
And they want a piece of the pie, and they're willing to challenge using their metrics, by the way, which are different than ours. And that's the problem that we face now, because the oligarch communist metrics are very different from the capitalist market economy metrics of certainly North America. And and at the moment, there's only really one country, which just happens to be next door to us, that has taken the policy decision to turn this thing around and reindustrialize, and not to just become a consumer service oriented society where you just have service to give each other, which has no value added, and consumers basically buy stuff that someone else makes, because that's how you end up with a 30-40 trillion dollar deficit that you'll never pay off in your entire, your kids won't pay it off, your grandkids won't pay it off. So they're coming to the conclusion, and have that it's time to bring back value-added jobs to their society. The trouble for people who are in the orbit of this colossus of economy is that you then have to decide how you're going to fit in with that. Now, unlike the Europeans, who had small functioning economies, right? So,
but we did try that with NAFTA, the original NAFTA, where we got we had the bilateral agreement between Canada and the United States, and then somebody thought, well, maybe we should bring Mexico in, and then I'm thinking someone is big business, Because while we're going here with Canada and the United States, it works out well for us in America because we can move some of the stuff from the United States to Canada, where historically we've had a 20-cent dollar advantage.
That's right.
Now somebody came up with the idea we should move some of this stuff to Mexico because not only do we have a 20-cent advantage over the Canadians, we have a huge, huge advantage because I don't know what the exchange rate from the US dollar to the peso is, but even if we have to pay them 10 pesos an hour, that's way cheaper than paying our own people $50 an hour. And that's kind of where things are, I think, with this, where
beyond
things
a
are
doubt,
going now.
but that's what happens when you go to a consumer-driven economy. After all, the consumers are so far in debt they can't buy anything anymore, no matter how cheap it is. This is where we've gone to the edge of the cliff here. And I mean, the reality is we have all our appliances in this house are made in Mexico. They all say General Electric, but every one of them is made in Mexico. My car is made in Mexico. Okay, my furnace is made in Mexico. It's not made. It has a tag on it. The appliance is Maytag in General Electric. Well, Maytag is made in Indiana. Sorry, but everything else is made in Mexico. It's just the way. That's what we've done. Okay, so now we've run out. We've run out of string on that one because the Mexicans are also saying, "Why the hell are we serfs to you people?"
Yeah. Well, and then we've also now got to the point where we don't want to get our hands dirty by serving fries at McDonald's or coffee at Timmy's. We have to import people to do that. Yeah. Normally, that's been a very good entry job for a lot of young kids. You know, a good friend of mine's brother went to McDonald's right after school, and you know, you can laugh or at it or not. McDonald's U was a very, very good training ground. You know, you had the fact that you worked at McDonald's on your resume, it guaranteed you an in with a lot of companies in the old days because they knew what McDonald's taught you, you know, with customer service and loyalty and blah, 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 blah. But, you know, now we have kids that can't even get that job or maybe don't want it. I don't know.
Yeah. But. Well, you know, that's a an old story about if you want to make the open border policy palatable, you use the argument that the indigenous folks of the community don't want to work, so that's why you have to bring in people from outside. That's a hoary old tale because that's not true. What is true is that the folks that you want to employ for peanuts, subsidized by the government, are what you're going to get because the businesses that will participate in this scam, they're not going to say no to having half the wages of the people in their fast food establishments paid for from public funds. I mean, why should they? It's good for the bottom line. It increases your profit margin. And oh, by the way, I'll do a nice healthy donation to the Liberal Party of Canada when the time comes as a, thank you very much for making my bottom line look good. I mean, let's not be naive and believe that this stuff is all done for some, esoteric purpose here that we're that's
another thing that I think we kind of forget too, being in the business that we were in, that kind of a system opens itself up to abuse. Absolutely. Where people can get into a country relatively easy, knowing that the end game for them is not to stay in this country, but it's to go and get into the country to the south of us, where they can make more money, supposedly, or they'll have a better life, supposedly. It just a never-ending cycle of time. The old snake trying to eat its tail, but.
Yeah, and then I think we kind of reached point over the past year where we started to believe, or at least a percentage of the population, that we're bigger, smarter, and more important than others in the geopolitical game.
Okay.
And I don't believe for one moment that we have progressed for the past year from where we were when the carpetbaggers brought in this guy from out of nowhere to be the leader of the country, and magnificently, was able to at least get a minority government by the skin of his teeth, to continue flying all over the world, signing worthless memorandums of understanding, when his primary reason for being elected was to deal with the issue at hand, which was, what do you do with this behemoth to the south of us?
Yeah.
And the guy that runs the place, and the story was that he's the most competent person to do this. So carpetbaggers brought him in. He's accomplished nothing. In fact, what he's accomplished is made it worse.
Interesting. Again, I think it was just this morning on the flyby news, the leader of the Separatist Party in Quebec actually called out that the emperor had no clothes on. Says basically what you said. We've got a guy who's flying around the world, signing all kinds of agreements and this and that and whatever, but not once has any of those ever been debated in the House, on the floor. He has absolutely no mandate to do these things.
These aren't treaties.
Well, call them what you will. Right now, I think it's just called smoke and mirrors.
Well, they're letters of intent. We intend to do this.
But it gets more and more and more to what you kind of alluded to pre-production here. We're very, very close to having I won't say communist government, but a totalitarianist government. You do the things we say you do, and don't stray out of the margins that, free thinking. Well, that's okay as long as the free thinking agrees with us, as we found out with the trucker convoy. I don't know where we're going to go. Are we actually heading for a spring election? Will the Canadian population get out of its goldfish memory and all these things that have happened over the past year that have led us back basically where we were a year ago? I'm not saying that the Conservative government would do any better. We don't know. It's really hard to say.
Well, I'm going to go out and say that the opposition Conservatives have to have a come to Jesus moment on this, because to basically try and paddle their way through sort of the milquetoast crowd and not offend any liberals by saying you don't know what you're doing, you're wrecking the place, is the problem here. What we need here for the voters to have a clear choice between two different visions, because right now the vision of the Conservative leadership is liberal light. I'm sorry, there's not much difference here. Because if you're going to talk about, let's just stick with the issue of China. You can't go around saying that, well, we agree with having to diversify. We really don't like that communist Chinese thing, but we need to diversify. Well, yeah, but that's not good enough. You've got to say, listen, gang, the Chinese Communist Party has no intention of doing anything good for the population of Canada. That's not their job. They're there to protect the workers, the factories that they built that make cheap stuff or even crap that we buy in Canada. because they're not going to build a plant over here to put their people out of business. This is not going to happen. That is so
unless
stupid.
unless they could build a plant over here and get visa exemptions, which then opens up the whole thing. Like, what do you do? Like, one of the things that came out of this last go rounds of the MOU that we signed with China, Canadians can travel visa free now. Well, China's never been on top of my list of places to go right within the last decade or so. But this is, again, hearsay. It's been put out there.
Well, it's part of the letter of intent, because the ambassador to China said, well, no, hold on a second here. We said we're going to do this. This is just part of the negotiation. Do you seriously believe that in a dictatorial regime, in a communist country, you're just going to get on a plane in Vancouver and fly to Beijing and get off the plane, and here I am, I'm going to wander around China? Are you serious? That's not going to happen. Anybody who believes that is delusional. Okay, a closed society does not do that, and one that has secret police and gulags and a miserable human rights record. Ask the two Michaels while they spent time at the hospitality inn of the People's Republic of China how this works. I mean, this is beyond stupid. Who would believe that kind of nonsense? Okay. And by the way, part of that deal was the Chinese will allow groups of Chinese to come to Canada. Well, wait a minute. Now, there's a big difference between having a visa-free regime going to China, but only groups of Chinese can come to Canada. All right. This is not, no. Visa, you think this is not supposed to be reciprocal then? Because usually that's what happens when one side says, well, we're going to give you this privilege. The other side usually does the same thing because they have vested interests that way. Yes and no. In some cases, we've never, even in Canada, gone along with, I can go there, but I don't want them coming here. That's fine. But the point is that that's ridiculous. And what's even more ridiculous, and I think what has caught in the big geopolitical game that Mark Carney wants to play in with the big guys, is when it gets to the ear of national security people in the United States that we're cozying up to having cooperative agreements with law enforcement and military issues with China. If that doesn't send alarm bells up, I don't know what you think is going to happen. Like, what on earth are we going to be doing with the Chinese police in Canada? Like, these are the ones that have set up the police stations here. They're harassing their own ethnic Chinese in this country. What in the name of heaven are we doing cooperating with this bunch? This is so bizarre. Again, it's right up there with visa free. You're just going to get off the plane and wander around in China, and then we're going to just cooperate like crazy with the communist Chinese secret police. Are you out of your mind? And so
it also goes, Tom, it's not all that long ago that we were horrified that the government was going to use Huawei technology in its communications. Not Huawei as Chinese, so we had a big fight that we can't have that because we know they're going to spy on us. But now it's okay for us to sign an understanding agreement with them that we're going to, like, what? And on top of that, our own politicians were told to use burner phones while they're in China. That.
Yeah, no, there's something really stinks with this thing, and I think it's it. And why would you make this public so that a guy who's already thin-skinned and is unpredictable as a negotiator, running the largest economy in the world with the biggest military in the world, happens to be our neighbor and our number one trading partner, okay?
Whether you like it or not.
Whether you like it or not. Why do you what poke the bear, as you said. The other thing that just irritates the living daylights out of me is this sloganeering that's going on out of Ottawa, particularly Carney's Head, about where we're dealing with the second largest trading partner of Canada. And you go, what are you talking about? The second largest trading partner of Canada makes up about 5 or 6% of our trade, where our number one trading partner is between 75 and 80% of our trade. So this is word salad at its height.
Extreme.
Our second greatest trading partner. What the hell are you talking about? Yeah. You are conning people. And by the way, what do they buy from us? Because I know that the big box stores are full of their stuff, but what stores in China are full of our stuff? Nothing. Okay, there's nothing that China. We had this discussion before. Tell me what finished products China wants to buy from us. Tell me.
Yeah, you're right. None. They certainly like some of our raw materials. Like
that's all. That's the same with the Europeans.
Like canola, like all kinds of things they want, but they turn them into what they want from our resources.
And as I said before, this business of diversity is all. This is like a wheel on a bicycle. It goes around and around. Every time we run into some sort of screw up that's usually self-inflicted in Canada, we bring out the diversity argument. Well, we should be more diverse. Well, I'm almost 75. I've heard the same story at least 3 times in my lifetime about how we should be more diverse, whether it's conservatives or liberals. Every time we find ourselves in a mess, we have to suddenly become diverse. Well, the first problem is that if I was making gold-plated widgets that were in big demand in Europe or Asia or South America, I would be making gold-plated widgets that I could sell there. But I don't make those because they don't want them. They make their own gold-plated widgets. All right. What cars do we make in Canada that go to Europe or China? None. What electronic goods do we make in Canada that are useful in South America or Asia or Europe? None. Name me the products that we make that they come here and say, oh, we really want that left-handed wrench because we just can't make left-handed wrenches. We need those things badly, and only Canadians have the technology to make a left-handed wrench and the patent to it. We don't do that. Okay, one of the reasons we have had a north-south existence is because it's easy to put something on a truck and ship it across the border. You don't have to put on an airplane, you don't have to put on a ship, all this other stuff. The logic of this, okay? And, if diversity was something that really made money, we would have done it already, okay? We're just stuck with geography. Sorry. And we're stuck with the world's largest consumer economy next door. It's not in China. It's not in the 27 different countries of Europe, European Union. Certainly not in the Commonwealth, because that's almost an extinct body. Now today I heard that the world traveling prime minister of ours is now planning to go to Australia. This is a country that has much closer ties to the United States, apparently, than we do on intelligence and on military issues, because we're not even in the circle of the Pacific Rim interests that Australia, United States, Japan, the UK has. We've been locked out of that one, much like we're locked out of the Five Eyes, more or less, these days. Because you think the other Four Eyes are, I'm not even sure if it's 4, maybe only 3 eyes. When I think about one of them that is just as goofy as we are going to trust us when we're working close cooperation with the Chinese, who, by the way, are in close cooperation with the Russians. Those other evil guys. But that's okay, because we trust the Chinese not to tell the Russians anything.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Because we are Canadians
it's
after
so
all.
Bizarre. Anyway.
Everybody's like us. But anyway, I guess that's the takeaway out of today's
That's today's takeaway, because the rest, because the
Think,
stupidity of
folks.
it's just beyond. We shouldn't even waste our time talking about crazy stuff. We need to talk about what's doable, not
Well,
what.
yeah. And I guess
Is.
to go back to your point before, if we want to diversify, then we as a country have to decide what it is we want to manufacture that is needed worldwide, because that's the only way that we are going to get out of this codependence with the United States. We could sign all the papers we want, but you're right. If we don't have something tangible to put out to the world that people are going to come knocking down our door to get, that's all we're left with is just pieces of paper and a desire to do something. So let's put our
Well,
heads
no,
together.
because we're trapped into the hewers of wood and drawers of water corner. Because if all we're going to do is dig stuff up and ship it someplace else to be used in the manufacturing of a finished product that we buy back from wherever, or it gets used never to come back because it's just a raw resource like energy, it may make money. That's true, but you can't sustain 40 million people just on doing that, because that's they're sitting
Yeah.
around all, what, you're going to send them checks every day for this. And you see the thing, and we'll conclude on this. While we're talking about what we're talking about, we have, and you touched on it briefly, in Quebec and Alberta. These are two parts of the country that are organically getting estranged. That's the best word I can think at the moment. Okay, I mean, an estrangement usually leads to separation, and separation leads to divorce. And in the meantime, we're sitting around at the highest levels playing a game in the big leagues that we don't even belong in uh, uh, until we get our own act together. And this is what's so.
Yeah.
While we have political fires burning in this country, we have the leadership, having toxic empathy for Ukraine, and worrying about how they're going to cooperate with an authoritarian regime over in China. And oh, by the way, let's just piss off, the place that we get 75 to 80% of our trade with. While the embers are burning in for adios guys in Quebec and Alberta. This is what only a juvenile, uncaring, silly leadership would do. Or, wait a minute, I'll back that up. Who benefits from this? I guess is really comes down to. Because if they don't pay attention to the grass fire of separatism or secession, then the beneficiaries will be who, and why do they ignore it? And I think I know that if they ignore it, I don't know what the lineups are right now for this signatories to this thing in Alberta.
I don't know.
But I look at these lineups, and what are they going to do? This is a runaway train, and they don't even care. Okay, and I'm not going to tell Albertans what they need to do. In fact, in many ways, I'm saying they're the only, Alberta and Quebec are the only two parts of this country that have the intestinal fortitude to stand up and say we're not putting up with this nonsense by this crowd. And meanwhile, some of the people of our age group think this is nothing to worry about. And I'm going, okay, this is yes, that's right. Yeah, the goldfish mentality. But anyway, you're right. We'll keep this one short. We know it's a mess. We'll probably have lots more to pontificate about a week from now, because I think this is a virus that is going to
Get out of
spread.
control. Yeah.
Well, we're
Before we there's something that's kind of bothered me all along, and I guess it's addressed to our neighbors to the south, was when President Trump had disparaging words about military personnel. And while you're entitled to your opinion, sir, these are the same people that signed up to fight for the right for you to have your own opinion and to say your own opinion. And I don't care whether they were from Canada, from Britain, from France, from Germany, from the United States. Without those people willing to stand up and take that oath where you won't have to pay me for life, but I may end up giving you my life in return. Don't belittle them. The same goes, like it or lump it, with the People's Liberation Army in China, the Soviets. These are young individuals who are out there doing what they think is best for their countries, whether we agree with them, whether we don't agree with them. But they are there and should be treated with some respect. I guess my challenge is to the American population. What would you feel if Prime Minister Starmer, President Macron in France, Prime Minister Carney here in Canada had the audacity to call down your military? And I guess that's what the world is feeling right now. Yes, you have a great military. You have a superb armed forces. You are one of the big leaders in the world as far as that's concerned. But that doesn't mean that any other fighting force doesn't have the same level of commitment and training that yours do. They should not be belittled. These are the people that you really have to thank from the bottoms of your heart, to be thankful for what you have now and what you will have in the future. As the one, I think it was a comedian said, if it wasn't for all those brave soldiers heading off in the Second World War, would we be speaking German or Japanese now? Give it some thought. These are the people that you really, really have to rely on when things go bad. They're like the police. 9/11, how many people did you see running away from the falling towers? Probably a lot, but what you didn't see in that was a great number of people that were running to the falling towers. The armed forces, the military, these are the people that you really, really have to rely on and should be thanking every day. End of rant. Don't forget to hit the like. Don't forget to buy us a coffee, if you will. Comments, please. Let us know. Have we hit a nerve? We hope so.
We're like dentists without Novocaine.
Yeah. Is that kind of like chewing tinfoil with those old amalgam foil?
Oh, I feel that right away. Yay. All right. All right, brother. I'll see you next week.
Yeah.
If not sooner. We may have a alert, news alert.
Yes. Another existential crisis.
Breaking news. All right, partner. Stay warm.
You too.
Talk to you later.